Are you a person who considers yourself a believer when it comes to God? And I'm sure asking that question in southern Idaho is probably a lot of hands go up, right? You don't have, I think, a lot of atheists in this part of the country. Now, I know atheists complain that they get treated poorly by other people. It's the fact of the matter is it's a handful of militant atheists who are trying to eradicate and stamp out religious faith. And of course, they give the rest of the people who are atheists a bad name. Most atheists probably just go along and live their lives. And, if they mow their lawn and they pay their bills on time and they don't play their music loud at night, they're good neighbors, right? As far as that goes. Still, we have a lot of people here who would tell us that they do believe in God, that they are religious people. On the other hand, it seems that there, and I don't take this lightly. I think that there is an absolute war on Christianity in this country. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. But how could you go about removing the faith of people? Remember, President Obama said that middle Americans, and he didn't mean middle class, he meant people living between the two coasts, were clinging to gods and guns, and it was not a very nice comment he made some years ago at a fundraiser. And he just doesn't believe that we should be doing that any longer, that we should get rid of that it's all superstition. I saw the movie finally after years and years of waiting to see it. I saw There Will Be Blood in the last week with Daniel Day-Lewis, where at the end he demands that the local pastor deny that there's a God and that religion is just superstition. And the pastor who wants to get involved with some oil money to help improve, how shall we say, put some money behind his ministry, gets up and shouts it back. And it's unfortunate that he then ends up getting killed by the lead character in the movie. Sad, sad movie. There are people out there who would like to remove that because religion is an obstacle to their power. This comes out of WorldNet Daily. Headline, scientists, we can wipe your belief in God. That, in other words, brainwash you. Researchers in England claim they have the ability to alter a Christian's belief in God with a common procedure used to treat depression. Belief in God was allegedly cut by 1/3 after an electromagnetic coil strategically placed against a participant's scalp had a current turned on, the newspaper reported. And they were also using this on some American volunteers. And when they did it to the Americans, the Americans had issues with illegal immigration. After having their brains zapped, the Americans no longer opposed illegal immigration. Do you see the possibilities for government in the use of this? Not only can you wipe out religious faith, you can wipe out people's opposition to all sorts of political issues. You don't even need to lobotomize them anymore or lock them away in a prison or send them to a gulag. This is from the Daily Signal. Now, the reason I think we're seeing a lot more of this is because people out there, powerful people, would like to eradicate religious faith from daily life. I told you the other day, the former Atlanta fire chief is suing in court, suing the city of Atlanta, which fired him because he published a Christian book, and then he gave it to some of his friends at work. Some of them requested it. Others, were saying, what about the book? He said, well, I'll give you a copy, and he gave it to them. And apparently, because he believes in the biblical definition of marriage, he was fired. It's not said who complained, but apparently, there are some people in the fire department who didn't like it. And so it went all the way up to the top, and he was then fired from his job, especially when he did not take sensitivity training, which I guess is a means to try and, again, remove your religious faith. The city of Atlanta, this comes from the Daily Signal, made, quote, dangerous, unquote, admissions in a court hearing today, argued the lawyer for the former Atlanta fire chief, who was terminated from his job after controversy related to a religious book he authored that included his views on homosexuality. Quote, the city actually argued that you're entitled to have beliefs and opinions, but you have to keep them to yourself inside the four walls of your house or your church, that you shouldn't bring them out into public, and you shouldn't bring them out if you're employed by a government agency, unquote. That is from Alliance Defending Freedom Senior Counsel David Cortman. He is the lead defense lawyer in this particular case. Now, there's some evidence to back this up from before the court case or the trial even started. In a statement to the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, a city councilman, his name, by the way, is Alex Wan, he said, quote, I respect each individual's right to have their own thoughts, beliefs, and opinions, but when you're a city worker and those thoughts, beliefs, and opinions are different from the city's, you have to check them at the door, unquote. There's a line in an old Woody Allen movie called Bananas, very funny movie, where Woody Allen has gone to South America and he ended up fighting with a revolutionary dictator who's loosely based on Fidel Castro. He finally comes back home impersonating that dictator, and he's arrested. And he's arrested by the FBI. He's put on trial for fomenting revolution and because he's an imposter. And they're taking testimony from, of all people, Miss America in the courtroom. And she says, I don't have a problem with anybody having a different opinion as long as it's not, an opinion that's different from the president and vice president. This is what we now, that was from a liberal filmmaker by the name of Woody Allen. Look at how it's been reversed. Look at how it's now been reversed. Now you've got people in government saying you can have a religious faith, but you can't bring it out in public. Can't talk about it. How many of you belong to churches that tell you to go out and testify? How many of you are told to evangelize? Think about that for a moment. Mormons go door to door. Jehovah's Witnesses go door to door. I know pastors at various other churches who are trying to build their flocks. They go door to door. They stand on street corners. This is how you build a church. This is how you find people, many of them in need. The Roman Catholic Church, they're calling for a new evangelization. And you do that by speaking about your faith publicly and trying to set an example for people. And according to the government of Atlanta, Georgia, and likely a lot of other liberals around the country, that's a no-no. I guess they don't want people being recruited into Christian faith. Because you know what? They'd stay home and take care of their families and be frugal, and they wouldn't be out bar hopping and getting in brawls. And gosh, we can't have that. 20 minutes away from 9 o'clock. Bill Colley with you on Top Story on News Radio 1310, KLIX, and NewsRadio1310.com. The Donald's reaction to the Democrat debate coming up.